God damn it.
Welcome back to Tack and Track. Today we are working on our Project Miata here, and we are going to start by upgrading the factory Mazda brakes with a set of Wilwoods. So let's go ahead and get started on that. We've gone ahead and jacked the car up, taken the wheels and tires off, and we're going to get started replacing those brakes with some really nice Wilwoods to add some whoa to our go. Alright, so the first thing that we need to do is we need to take these two bolts loose. The top one is a 14 millimeter, the bottom one's a 17 millimeter, and we're going to go ahead and remove this caliper from the car, and we're going to get this brake line off right here. Alright, we've gotten the two bolts out of the caliper here, we've gotten the line out of the brake line, we're going to remove the caliper itself right here. We're going to take the pads off, and now then we can access these bolts back here for the caliper bracket. Alright, so here's just a little cool tidbit. These are the original brake pads off this car. They're really still in pretty good shape, and I think that's going to be a good start to an excellent project car here. Alright, so the caliper bracket bolts here are 14 millimeters, and we're going to go ahead and take them off so we can get this bracket, get the rotor off before we put the new ones on. With the caliper bracket off, the rotors on this car, they just pull straight off, but it's not uncommon for a little bit of rust and corrosion to build on these, and for you to have to pop them with a mallet, rotate, pop with a mallet, rotate, pop with a mallet in order to get them off. This car is just so clean that they just come right off. Alright, so at this point in time, we're ready to put together our rotors. This is our rotor. If you notice, it's missing the rotor hat, and that actually comes as a separate piece right here. So they're going to go like this, but we're going to run our bolts. They come in this package right here. We're going to run those from the back of the rotor forward, and we're going to put some Loctite on these guys just to be sure they stay in place. Part of your brake kit here is to be sure that you've got the correct torques and you've got Loctite so you're not constantly going to the store. Alright, so the next step of our project is to go ahead and put the caliper mounts on the vehicle. They're going to line up like this right here.
So we're doing some test fitting on these Wilwoods and discovered that we do need some washers on these brackets. So these kits come with a lot of washers. And that gives you proper spacing to set it closer or further away. So the inside of the bracket needs some washers, and then we can further adjust it from the outside of the bracket.
When you do this test fit, there's a centering ring in here that you need to be sure that you put on, and at least 3 of the lug nuts, if not 4, to get that brake rotor kind of pushed in the correct spot. Alright, so after test fitting, we installed one shim here between the bracket and the caliper, and one here as well. And if you look, our rotor is now directly in the middle of our caliper, so we can take this back apart, start getting ready to finish up the job.
So we use the supplied washers that are made for that caliper bracket, and then 2 of these small, thinner gold washers on the actual caliper itself to the bracket.
Alright, so Gil's going to pull a pin here on these Wilwoods, and this is one of the really cool things about Wilwoods is actually how easy and fast it is to do a pad change. Just slide those guys right in on either side, and you don't have to pull the caliper to swap pads on this car now. Push the pin back through. It's going to keep everything lined up.
And then we just got to bend these tangs.
Yep, and we'll bend those in just a second. We're going to go ahead, rinse and repeat exactly what we did on this side over here. Over here on the passenger side of the car. And we'll be all done. And we'll have those sexy as fuck Wilwoods ready to... Are the brake lines here? Brake lines! Brake lines! So what do you do while you're waiting on brake lines? Suppress 9mm.
All right, so we're going to be replacing the brake lines with the stainless steel
lines. If you order the big brake kit, be sure to order those because your stock brake lines aren't going to be long enough to get to this caliper. All you got to do is loosen this one right here. It is a 10 millimeter. You can use a box end wrench. And then there's a little spring clip here that'll come out so you can put the new line in. So this attachment here comes with your brake line kit, and it goes up through the bottom, and then you tighten this down into it, and then this spring clip retainer goes back in there to retain it in place.
All right, so we have the new retainer in place. We have the new line threaded in. The next step is this little adapter right here. It's going to go into the backside of these Wilwoods here. Right? So we're going to remove this little piece of tape right here. We can now see that, and I apologize for the poor lighting. So we're now going to thread this adapter in right here, and then we're going to put the lines into this little guy.
Quit squeaking that door up. You're going to hear it in all our videos. All right, quiet on deck. So we got the Wilwoods in, and they do a great job stopping the car. We did have one issue with the brake lines. One of them broke as soon as Brad went to tighten it. I did blame him for that, although it's not his fault. It was apparently poorly made, so we got a cheap replacement, and it did better. It held up perfectly. And those brakes have made a huge difference in the way that the car stops, which is one of your number one ways of going faster, is being able to stop faster. Now, it didn't stop fast enough for the Grand Cherokee that pulled out in front of me, but that's not any fault of the brakes. So if you are getting a Miata and you are getting into racing, the front Wilwood kit is excellent. I do suggest sourcing brake lines from a different source because I wasn't pleased with the ones that came with. But other than that, highly suggest that kit. It's easy to put together, easy to put on the car. It takes no time at all to bleed them. So certainly worth doing. And that's all we have for you today on Tack and Track. We'll see you next time.